Okay, this is another rate problem. If you watched the other video I posted, the driveway was a rate problem. So this is good because this is an area we haven't talked about a lot. Rate problems are not my greatest strength because rates are always left as a ratio. So it can be somewhat confusing because it's generally not a solid number. For example, when we drive on the roads, we always think 60 miles per hour. Well, that's 60 miles per hour, so you could turn that into 60 miles per 60 minutes, which gives you 1 mile per minute. So that's the reduced version of that rate. This similar is a rate problem. So to start with, right, and the language here isn't clear either, but what I do is whenever I'm solving rates, as you saw in the previous one, I just write rate, the word rate, so that in my mind I kind of reserve that as a ratio space, okay? So for example, let's break this into two pieces. So the first sentence says, if P pencils cost C cents at the same rate, okay, so right there, let's create one equation. So what is the rate in terms of C cents? So P pencils for the number of pencils, okay? P represents number of pencils, okay? It's confusing because the language isn't very clear here, but P is number of pencils, and here's where it's going to be times some rate. So I'm just going to reserve that as rate equals some C, that's the amount of cents, the number of cents, okay? So it's in terms of cents, all right? So that's important to think about, that this initial rate is written in terms of cents. So this is pretty easy to solve for this rate, and we kind of touched on this when we talked previously. But basically, right, these are just multiplied right here, P times rate, so the inverse of that is just division. So I just divide, so my rate in terms of cents equals C, number of cents, over P. So that's the solution for the rate. So that's pretty easy, okay? Now, the second part is how many pencils can be bought for D dollars, okay? When we were covering this in the book, the way the book has it set up kind of confused me because it said 100D. I couldn't figure out where they were getting that. Well, if you set up your first equation in terms of cents, then D is not dollars, it's D for the number of dollars. So what that means is you have to convert D into cents somehow, and D dollars, $1 equals 100 cents. So it's D times 100 because D represents the number of dollars. So how many times 100? So when you set up this second portion here, right here, how many pencils can be bought for D dollars? Set up the same equation here, but understand that you have to put in some sort of conversion rate for dollars to cents, which we know there's 100 cents in $1. So setting up the same problem as I did up here, but this time in terms of dollars, right? I can say P times, again, the rate, so the number of pencils, but this time equals, we want dollars, but if we're going to plug this rate back in here, we need this D dollars in terms of cents. So we say, well, it's number of dollars times 100 because $1 equals 100 cents. Okay, so now we'll have the number of dollars times 100, so it's in cents. Okay, now all you have to do is plug your rate, right? This is our rate, into here. So P times C over P equals D100. Now, it's really tempting at this point to just cross those P's out, but they're asking you how many pencils, or the number of pencils, can be bought for D dollars. So you're going to solve this in terms of P right here, okay, separate from your rate. But the confusing part is because it's a rate, it's still going to have P in it. So just isolate for P. Since this is P times C over P, again, you divide by C over P on both sides. So the C over P divided by C over P those cancel, and then you divide this by C over P, and now we're back to, it's good we've touched on this lately, but a ratio divided by a ratio, because this can be re-expressed, this part right here can be re-expressed as D100, and you can turn any whole number into a ratio by putting 1 under it, divided by C over P. So remember, to divide two ratios, you take the first times the flip of the second. So here's the first, here's the second. So this, all expressed as multiplication instead of division, is D100 over 1 times, and we flip this one, P over C. So finally you arrive at the solution, which is, and this whole side, right, just became P. So all of this, I'm going to move this up here, sorry, P equals 100, and then this just multiplies across right here, right? So dP, and I just put the variables on the back to group them together, over C. And that lines up with the posted solution for the GRE, which shows 100 dP over C. Now again, it's a little confusing the way they express it in the back. This is the way I would represent it because I like using the word just rate and using algebraic methods and solving for it. Hope that helps.